My name's Janet Creighton. I'm an agri-workforce specialist. I know some of you from past work that we did together when I was at the Canadian Agriculture Human Resource Council. I now have a company called Crystal Clear Connections, where I support clients that have labor needs, such as the mushroom sector. And so I'm really happy today to be joining you to discuss some of the recent changes with the Temporary Foreign Worker Program, some of the challenges, and some of the ideas for solutions that can sort of get you ahead of the situation to keep your farm having a stabilized workforce when you have job vacancies. So Janice has asked me to do this presentation, and this will be accompanying your ringside, where you will receive similar information in newsletter format. And we will also have a link to a survey, which I hope as many farms as possible will consider participating in. And if it's for a very important issue regarding housing. And when we get to that, we will be talking about that within the presentation. So we will be discussing overall changes that have been happening recently within this workforce solutions roadmap. The biggest change, or the only change for primary ag at this point in time, is a 6-month validity. And then we'll be talking about the recognized employer program. I have a few slides directly from Service Canada, so the latest information regarding the recognized employer program. Also, we'll be talking about, this is where we'll be talking about the off-farm housing requirements, some of the changes that are not a positive, and that's why we're doing the survey. And the NOC work that Janice and the Alberta Cattle Feeders and National Cattle Feeders team have been doing to support you, to get you back what you need for that particular issue, as well as the new foreign labor program for agriculture and seafood that is simultaneously also being rolled out, and a few Agri-Food Immigration Pilot changes that are more positive. So starting with the validity of the LMIAs, which has been decreased to 6 months. So this is something that may not be affecting your farm to reduce it from the 12 months to 6 months. And that's good if that's the case. But it's something to be aware of because the work permit timelines have been increasing. That's what we find with other farms. So it's just to be aware of that. And so it's going to be managing that will be difficult within the main primary agricultural stream program potentially as we go forward, because the government is sort of reducing access to their immigration programs to begin to decrease the numbers. This is sort of what's happening. So it's just something to be aware of. So the cap, this would be applying for the butchers. It doesn't apply to primary ag at this point in time, although it's been mused about by the Minister of ESDC recently, so it's something else to be aware of. And also recruitment of asylum seekers. So I know that cattle feeders and other agriculture farms do reach out to the Immigration Settlement Agency, similar to the meat processing companies a lot of times. But right now it will not apply for primary agriculture, but it's something to really start tracking your recruitment efforts again, and to maybe voluntarily going through some of those extra steps. They do not apply to primary agriculture, but it's always a good idea. And it's just to sort of keep you ahead of these changes that are rolling out from the program. So one of the things that industry has done, and the National Cattle Feeders as part a part of this. We have an industry coalition of the willing where we are basically working together now more collaboratively on the issues affecting agriculture and agri-food. So this was an industry letter. We just wanted to make you aware of that. Jan is working very hard, and the whole team on your behalf regarding the issues that you may see developing or be dealing with right now. So we sent this letter to both the administrative ESDC and immigration, asking them to stop criticizing the program in the media and explaining that our workers, temporary foreign workers, are essential. Primary agriculture is actually 60% of the temporary foreign worker program. This is often forgotten by ministers and politicians and bureaucrats. So we need access to this because we really don't have the same access to immigration options that a lot of the other sectors do. And so this is always our, step number one if our workers want to stay in Canada. So one of the things that I wanted to talk to you about, and I know a lot of assessment of this recognized employer program was, it's hard to see anything that was positive in it or helpful. But things have changed. Now that we have the 6-month duration, the 36-month validity duration is now like it's a more positive thing that could be a real asset. And we're going to go through this. These are some slides that I received recently from Service Canada. I completely recommend if you get the chance to maybe book a meeting with Service Canada directly, because it's a really good chance for Q&A, not on case specific issues, but to deal with things on a more broad scale with some of the issues you might be dealing with. I booked one of these for mushrooms and it was very beneficial. It started in September of last year, and they're saying they're closing down applications. If you want to become a part of it, they're going to close down the applications by September 16th. So if you want to apply to it, you need to get going soon. So one of the key things that I would recommend is that it's not just for validity at this point, with so many changes happening with the temporary foreign worker program, because they're worried, claiming it's basically misinformation, but they're claiming it's, the reason for the price of housing going up and apartments not being available and this kind of thing. This is what we hear in the media. Then we don't know what changes will happen next. We really don't. So if the people are accepted to this 36-month program, I think is going to give a little bit of stability within the temporary foreign worker program, because they won't be really able to change things as much for the ones that are within this. Is going to create a little cushion of stability. So I recommend my analysis, working on this all the time. I do recommend the recognized employer program now for those two reasons. You get 36 months validity, open LMIA, but it's also going to maybe stabilize it for the primary ag. So it's something to really consider, because every farm has to look at how to manage what's happening. It's a very volatile time with the temporary foreign worker program. So the recognized employer program is nothing to do with the tier contract. You're probably aware of that. It provides almost a 3-year LMIA validity. It's a little bit under now because we're 6 months into it. More appealing to farms now. And it, like I was saying, it could help mitigate other issues in the short term related to upcoming changes and even housing challenges that we're going to be talking about soon, related to the empty space guideline. So you can get a tech briefing if you're interested. And if you have LMIAs coming up and you're considering using it, you can actually apply for an LMIA renewal 6 months in advance. If it's more than 6 months, they said they won't look at it. But if you're like, you want to try this and your renewal doesn't come up till November of this fall, then you could apply to it sooner. That's what they're saying, but not beyond 6 months. So when you do apply, if you decide to try this, then you basically look for a little box with your LMIA that's going to say Recognized Employer Program. So it's that simple. It's on page 5 of the LMIA when you get it back that you're going to see whether you got it or you didn't get it. So if you get it, yeah, you'll have 36 months. That's one way you're going to know. But if it comes back 6 months, not 36 months, then you're going to know you didn't get it. But just to confirm, you need to go to that, look for it on that page 5. And if you don't get it, don't worry, you can try again, but you have to wait 3 months. You can't apply. If you apply again right away, they just ignore it. They don't even tell you. They just keep giving you 6 months for other renewals you might have to do. When you're at the end of your 2-year contract, to renew it, you just add the names to this 36-month LMIA. So it could maybe be a lot simpler for these renewals, one step less, and then you have to do the work permits normally. So, and yeah, if you've underestimated, then you need to do this. That's when you do the simple. So the reason why I have encountered a few farms that are actually having a challenge with the Recognized Employer Program, it's because maybe they had an integrity audit ongoing random or a complaint-based audit in the past. And even though they're found totally compliant, it can be sort of holding things up. And so there's a few tips that we've been figuring out how to sort of manage this if this is the case. We have received some new data here, which is quite shocking from Immigration Canada, that there are a lot of farm workers. This might not be the case with the cattle feeders, but in some sectors, some commodities, they're making false claims to get the vulnerable open work permit. So it's something that they don't really have a plan to combat or deal with. Although technically there are severe punishments when people lie to Immigration Canada, but for somehow I think they're getting an exemption at this point. So it's really important, if you do have an audit, save your audit letters and even start to compile them over the last 5 years, put them all in one file, and maybe go take a look through them to see if there was any writing in them, if it was all just compliant, no problem. And then, maybe to put that in a spreadsheet and note that. And if there was any writing, note that. So that's the kind of thing you need to start to track, just in case you have any issues with the Recognized Employer Program. That's a little tip. So this is also, I believe, will be in the ringside. It's a Q&A about the Recognized Employer Program. So this was very difficult to obtain. We've been asking for this since September, and we just got it. So I don't think it's been distributed yet through their normal channels. So this is an 8-page Q&A regarding the Recognized Employer Program that may help you as well, if you're thinking of trying for it. So the next topic we want to discuss is the off-farm housing requirement. So they're sort of in limbo, I would say. They're moving, evolving. So it's kind of a challenging time with this. So this is from the website. They've added a few sentences here. So the workers are allowed to live on their own. They've always said that. In the past, we were using these housing waivers and the workers were living on their own, and we didn't have to provide a housing inspection when that happened because the workers are not living in the housing. It makes sense. And so this went on for over 5 years. They're accepting these attestations that they provide. And now they're saying that when the worker chooses to live on their own, that it doesn't exempt the employer from providing empty housing, basically. And so they put this on the website. And then I personally got this email from the Director General that, because we've been talking to them about this for a year, we actually alerted them because we had you may not have encountered this yet, but we had a couple of mushroom farms last year. They had their LMIAs cut significantly. But it just seems to depend on the officer. So they didn't seem to really have a firm guideline on it. It just depends on the officer, although something changed to trigger it. So yeah, so he's definitely put, in black and white here that they want empty spaces, which is a really bizarre position we find. So basically, we want to, as an industry, work together. So mushrooms, we've already done this survey. How many empty spaces are we going to need? Like, where are we going to find these empty spaces during a housing crisis? It's quite unconscionable, actually, and will actually raise the prices of housing. Temporary foreign workers are comfortably settled in the rural areas, so our program has not been causing a problem, but this will be a new problem they're creating if they go to fully implement this or crack down, we feel. So they've been holding off sending out an email on this because we've been telling them this is a lot bigger than they think. The minister's office is waiting for sort of a compiled industry survey, and so they've been waiting for a little while. And they're quite anxious. They want to send that email out. So yeah, so if you can fill this in and just let us know if you have workers living on their own, and then if they've been living on their own, and provide comments to Jan, how long that is, what this will mean to your farm, if you have to go find these empty spaces that don't make sense, anything like that. And then we're going to put it together as an industry collaborative effort, keep all the information confidential. That's our number one, so that, to protect the farms. So that's why, yeah, the more that we have contribute to this, the better. From a mushroom perspective, we know with a very limited amount of farms, like we have, we would have to go by 200 empty houses to comply with this. Some farms will probably, will have half their production because they live with family and friends when they've been here for 2 years or longer. So, and a lot of them are trying to immigrate. So we're trying to explain how this program is different and how the housing needs are different with hard data. So if you can fill out that survey, we would really, really appreciate it. So these are the recommendations that we've provided to the department that we think make a lot of sense. It's we want to make sure it's the worker's choice to live on their own, because that's one thing the department was saying, that the farmers are pushing the workers out. That's what they're worried about, why they're changing this, why they started changing this last year. And we say that's not true. The workers have different needs, but we'll go the extra mile and make sure, the officer can call them. If they need to come back for emergency purposes, they could immediately have a hotel available to them and eventually come back to the employer paid housing with 30 days notice. This kind of thing. Like, what can we do to make this make sense so that we don't have to have hundreds and hundreds of empty houses across Canada? So mushrooms, we recently testified at the committee about this, agriculture committee as well, and it's on our social media. So we're trying to highlight that. So Jan has highlighted this to the politicians within the May 8th Hill Times. So it's a very recent Hill Times, which is the paper all the MPs get it in their office. So she's done a really good job highlighting this already before the survey, but the survey is going to provide really good information that we can, bring forward. I'm hoping in a formal letter, with, again, a coalition of the willing for the agriculture commodities that are affected by this, that have workers living on their own. So the other work that Jan has been involved with, working really hard on your behalf, is the Herdsperson issue that I'm well aware of. It's also affecting us because they've merged, or mushroom farms, because they've merged the both the general farm worker with the technician specialist herdsperson knock, and it's just a mess. So we've met with them, we've done a big meeting, we showed them videos and infographics, pictures, and we feel they have a good understanding that, like, we're actually correct, and we proved to them there's over 5,000 for the agriculture sector in this technician level, and they need to split it out, but it's not like a fast process with these knocks that are attached to Statistics Canada, I guess. So we're going to continue advocating both as an industry, and Jan is now advocating separately since we've proved there's over 5,000, and that their job bank data that they were looking at was totally incorrect. So any examples you have, issues this is creating, we brought forward a few at this meeting. But what is the solution? What can we do to get those technicians split out some way, if they're not going to change the knock immediately? So that's sort of the discussion. And yeah, if you're having issues with this, or I know a lot are, and if you have examples, just keep sending them to Jan, who is collecting them, so that she can continue to bring that forward to the politicians. So the other thing, we just need to alert you, and we have a full deck for this, as well as like the Recognized Employer Program I showed you earlier. This is a new program that they're developing, and they've sort of announced without formal consultation. So they had a meeting with us about 3 weeks ago, and went through this with us. So I've included like a couple slides from their deck only, and then my own analysis of what this means for AgStream, like what's different. So if you want the full deck, it is available. Jan can share it with you as well. And we do need to get, feedback for upcoming meetings, future meetings regarding this, and stay tuned. Hopefully we'll be able to get some sort of consultation going. So the number one thing about this, to me, this is the good point, this is why I'm showing you this slide, is this is a really long timeline for their rollout. So to me, that's a positive, because yeah, there's a lot of things that aren't positive for agriculture stream. So we've got some time here to hopefully get things moving better in our direction for agriculture stream. So 2027 is the final rollout. And that to me was a positive. Now the things that they want to, change, that's what they have in this slide here. So it's like wages. They want to go to, they call it a new market-based approach. That's basically the prevailing median wage is what I would perceive that as. So not the NCL. So that's not going to make as much of a difference for cattle as, let's say, fruit and veg. They have different wages. But it's just something to be aware of. It would be more money. So and then the deductions, they're claiming that they're going to, they want it to be more of a gradual approach to allow a larger deduction than the $30 a week for the housing, for employer paid housing. I'm skeptical whether the embassies are going to be in favor of that, and they want to go to more of an embassy approach. So what is different between AgStream, what we have now, and what they're now proposing? They are telling us they want to put it all in one program, which is a bit distressing. I have heard the SOP described as the preferential program now, which we thought was odd, but that is what they've been saying. So they want to go to bilaterals with a whole bunch more countries, and they want Mexico to have access to year round. So already Mexicans are working through AgStream. But, so what this means, so if they do have a bilateral, does that mean then, that you must go through this bilateral new process? Or if you don't have a worker in these bilateral agreements with these source countries, then they're calling this an open source category. So that would be like the Philippines or Guatemala currently does not have a bilateral agreement with the government. The bilaterals are with Mexico and the Caribbean circle of countries that the SOP uses. So nobody really knows like how this is going to work. And if you ask questions about it, the department doesn't know either. So, it's going to be a lot of work working this through with them. It would be better if they did a full consultation, which is what a lot are recommending, like what they did in 2017 with the farmers directly in the provinces. But I don't think they have plans to do that right now. So we have to continue to advocate if that's what farmers want. So the next thing is sector specific work permit. So it would be not employer tied. That would mean that it's not like an AgStream or any part of the temporary foreign worker program. It's more like the SOP is actually sector specific, so they can go work on other farms. So this is not an asset for the industry, and we constantly are telling them how already with the things they've put in place, the workers are, it's sort of like, sometimes these workers are getting sort of scalped, like they're from one farm. One company is trying to grab them, it's not a good, this is not good, and it encourages them to go underground too. So we've explained that to them, but we're gonna have to explain it all to them again, it looks like. So yeah, the market-based wages, I think it will be the prevailing wage, but it would be good if they get they've merged the techs and the farm workers. It would be good. They've done that, but they're still moving forward with market-based wages. Like that should be priority to split that out, but they are not thinking about that at this point. And housing could go either way, I think. The SOP program has free housing. If the SOP is the preferred, that might be how it goes. But in the notes here, it did say that they want to raise the amount that could be charged to the workers eventually. Although, like I said, I'm very skeptical if the embassies are more involved. I don't think that they're going to want that because it means less remittances going back to the country. But anyways, it's really good. It's a long timeline because there'll be a lot to discuss. So please provide feedback to Jan. She's looking for that feedback. So finally, we have the Agri-Food Immigration Pilot. This has been going for a while now. I know the meat processors, depending what province you're in, they're using it a lot. And it's a nice option if your workers do want to immigrate from the ag streams. So the main change is that if they have a job offer, they don't need the high school education now. So that's huge. Or if they have the education, then they don't need to get job offer. So the challenge from the employer perspective with that is to keep really good contact with your workers and to encourage voluntary disclosure, maybe with incentive programs, that kind of thing. Because if they have the education and you don't know that they've applied and they have their PR and they're living in employer paid housing, then, unless you want them to continue paying $30 a week, forever, but like you need to know right away because you need to change their SIN number. So that to me is, I think, the key point to make with the workers is if they are using the Agri-Food Immigration Pilot and they want to PR, then they to disclose to you, because you need to help them with their SIN number because it's going to screw up their taxes if you don't change it to change their SIN number when they achieve their PR because they need a new one. So to me, that's the key point now, because we can't get them to, we asked for a voluntary tick box so that the employer could be informed when they PR due to the housing, but they've absolutely said no because of privacy reasons. So we have to work on this behind the scenes to encourage that voluntary disclosure. So the key other point that I think is really important is, that they now have this open work permit for family members. So that can be a very positive thing, but they have to be enrolled in the Agri-Food Immigration Pilot. But as soon as they apply to the Agri-Food Immigration Pilot, even if they're lower, on the lower skilled NOCs, then they can bring their spouses over at the beginning of the Agri-Food Immigration Pilot process. So this can be a really good thing because a lot of the families want to come over. Sometimes you get the spouse would like to work on the farm as well. So it's, these are really, it's a new option. And so the links are here in the PowerPoint for the instructions in order to start that process. So that's about it. I wanted to mention also, because I know it was in the ringside, that I know a lot of people are struggling with the Mexican visa situation. And basically, I think that's cleared up probably a lot by now. If you have any questions, continue to reach out to Jan on that. So I hope this was helpful, and I will help you guys keep ahead of this, because we need to keep producing the beef in Canada, because I like steak and so does my husband. Thank you.